This is Marcus Whitney's audio universe.
Like, you gotta do the work. You gotta show up and just do the work.
What's good? Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody is doing well. Another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. My guest today is a new friend, connected by our mutual friend, Marsha Masula. So peace, Marsha. Appreciate that. Introducing to you all, this is our first podcast, I think. And so we're going to be kind, be okay. She didn't actually know it was a live stream. She thought we were recording. But she's ready to go. We prepped it. Yep. She's ready to go. So introducing to everybody, Annie Choo. Annie, how are you today? How's it going?
Pretty good. How about you, Marcus?
Doing really well. So we had a good catch up before we jumped in to record, and let's just start with your background a little bit, and then we'll get into why this is going to be a fun story to talk about, especially right now in this time of COVID-19.
Totally. So I am the owner of Avo, which is a plant-based restaurant here in Nashville, Tennessee. A little bit about myself is that I recently became a restaurateur in 2017. So it's been about 3 years. It's been a great journey, ups and downs, but my background stems from my father, who was he owns a restaurant in town too. We just have restaurants. We're a restaurant family. He owns Samurai Sushi, and I've kind of grew up with that in mind. He immigrated from Korea in 1997 when he was 35 years old. Just left everything to pursue his American dream. And the rest is history, because Samurai Sushi is still with us today. And my influence of how I run my restaurant, how I care for people within my staff really comes from my father. Other than that, I left my corporate job to pursue my life in the restaurant world, and I haven't had any regrets ever since. And this is my passion. I get excited about it. And I'm also from Atlanta. I didn't tell you that before.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm from Atlanta, and I moved to Nashville to pursue Avo. And I am here to stay for sure.
So that's an amazing story, and I want to go back to the part about your father immigrating. So talk about that, because when you set that date, which you said was 97 when he came over. Yeah. So that means like you weren't born here, so you were born in Korea as well. When he came over here, did you all come together, or did he come out in front of you? Like how did that work?
Yeah. So. He came to America a few months before we did. He originally went to New York and worked in a few different restaurants to figure out where we were going to be. And in the summer of 97 is when we moved to Columbus, Ohio.
Wow.
Oh, actually, it was winter. It was winter, because I remember it was really, really cold, and then there was snow everywhere. And we just followed him a few months later. And after Ohio, we moved to Tennessee, and that's just where he's been since then.
Yeah, I always find immigrant stories so fascinating in terms of where people land. Like, they arrive. New York makes complete sense. That of course makes sense. And you can even see like in Atlanta or in LA or one of these like big cities. But then when you start in New York and then you end up in Columbus and then you end up in Nashville, I mean, it's just really, really interesting how brave people are to come to this land where they don't know anybody, don't necessarily speak the language, and then to have to try to navigate where you're going to land and plant roots and, raise a family and join a community. It's just sort of a fascinating journey, to go through.
It is. And it's very aspiring. Like, I don't know how he did it at the age of 35 when he was, I'm almost 30 this year. I'm turning 30 this year. And for me to even think about leaving my life here to go to a completely different country to start a new life, that is just so admirable in a lot of ways, I would have to say.
So did he raise you to be a restaurateur? Like, how did that all happen?
Well, when I was trying to get to college, both of my parents did hotel management.
Okay.
So I told them, I was like, hey, I'm actually interested in this. And then both of them said, don't do it. They're like, you don't get holidays, you get horrible hours. Like it's not that good for you, So
Yeah.
they're like trying to veer me to a different direction. And I listened to them, but I grew up with it. I've seen my parents do it all their life, so I think intuitively, I just kind of
it was in you. It was kind of like in you, yeah.
Exactly.
But you didn't go directly there. You did actually try to listen to them and take a different path for a while, right?
Right. I went to Georgia Tech for college. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But once I got to college, I realized I wasn't an engineer. I wasn't a techie. So I joined the business program and did marketing. So I went to the whole corporate marketing side, and I have, friends from college. They're all consultants. They're engineers.
Yeah.
And I'm the only outlier in our friend group. So corporate marketing is what I did for a few years. One of the bigger company that I worked for was Integrated Merchandising Systems, and we did like promotional materials. All the signage that you saw at the Home Depot was produced by our company. So that was interesting. I mean, that was a good corporate job to have, but at the same time, I didn't feel the passion. I didn't feel excited to go into work. Every day was the same. And I really questioned for a few months, like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why, how does this benefit my future? And how does benefit like other people? I was just benefiting the bigger corporate world.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the purpose in that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like marketing for big corporations, I spent a couple of years doing that. It's really hard. I mean, because you're excited about being able to work for a big corporation and you get excited about the results, but then it's shallow. There's nothing beyond that feels good. And even sometimes, depending on the corporation you're working for, it can feel bad. You know what I mean? Depending on like what they're doing. So I can definitely relate to that. So you're not feeling super fulfilled, and you decide next you're going to just leave?
So the company that I worked with, they were actually they lost their contract with Home Depot, and another company was coming in.
Okay.
And the other company offered me a job to do the same thing for Home Depot. However, while everybody jumped on board because it's a corporate job, it's a good job, I thought this was kind of like my time to say goodbye in a way, and kind of pursue something else. So I decided to quit and did a little soul searching.
So, and what was that soul searching like for you?
It was hard because I went from corporate job to not working and having a lot of question marks. And the purpose that I wanted to fulfill was to help people in a way. And I leaned towards nursing. So I actually went back to community college, and I enrolled in, prereq classes. And a few months into that, and then during that time, I also was a receptionist at a PT clinic because I was interested in physical therapy too, and occupational therapy. I just wanted to immerse myself in a different world.
Sure.
But I realized after a few months, I was like, maybe this isn't it. And right around that time, I was just thinking again, is when the opportunity of Avo came up. And I was interested, but I wasn't sure if I was passionate about it. But as soon as I dove into it, I was like, this is it. Like, I feel happy, even though there are tough days. Like, I'm just very happy about like where I am right now. So
with Avo, a couple of things. One, I'm not in the restaurant space, so I had no idea it ever changed ownership. And you said you bought it in 2017. It's not that old, right?
It opened in 2015.
15. Yeah. So, I mean, so it had been around 2 years before you bought it. And I'm sure the opportunity, like, what was going on that somebody got this thing off the ground? And Nashville was, you know, in a boom period at that point. Like, you know, the whole neighborhood of the Nations was being developed. So I know more and more people were moving in over there. Like, why, like, what happened that this thing was up for sale, that this opportunity even came up? And like, how did you hear about it? Did you hear about it because your dad is in the restaurant business? And like, do restaurateurs know when things are going for sale and the general public has no idea? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's kind of how it works. We have our connections with commercial real estate agents.
Okay.
So whenever restaurants pop up, we get an email ding or a message.
Okay.
Like, hey, heads up, this is happening.
Okay.
But regarding, you know, how we purchased Avo in 2017, it was created by two people in 2015, and the partnership fell apart. And the partner who owned Avo at the time, she owned yoga studios in town. So this was not her forte. She came in as an investor, and she believed in what Avo stood for.
Right.
But as a restaurateur, you kind of have to have a different mindset of how to run a restaurant, because it's very different. And it's very different. So she put it up for sale, and we struck a deal and we purchased it. And within a month, I moved to Atlanta, to Nashville, and then I started right away.
Wow. So okay, what is that like? You're going to school for nursing. This thing pops up. You buy it. 30 days later, you're in town. You're running it. Okay. Do you keep the same staff? Do you keep the same menu? All the same vendors? Like, do you just like buy the thing and operate it just as is?
In the beginning, because you didn't even know that it changed.
I didn't even
ownership.
know. I had no idea. I mean, I like Avo a lot, but I had no idea that the ownership changed.
One, I wanted to kind of keep it on the down low, because, you know, a change in ownership, I feel like sometimes it's a bad signal. Light. Yeah, bad light.
Yeah, it could be a bad signal. Yeah.
And for me, as a first-time restaurant owner, I didn't want any publicity. I just wanted to run it as is. And then if there were any changes that need to be made, I wanted to make it into like a gradual change. So like I said, I knew plant-based diets, but I wasn't like really comfortable about the whole new, you know, plant-based diets, veganism.
Yeah.
And so when I first started, I actually kind of took in the role as a host of the restaurant.
No kidding.
And then I started talking to people at tables, bringing their food, talk to them. And, you know, I was nervous at the time.
And nobody would have known. Like, people would have gone there to eat and they would have thought, oh, hey, you're the girl who's going to take me to my table, and you own the place. I love that. That's so great.
So, I mean, like, and then later on, I would get close to certain customers and then actually let them know, like, actually, I'm the owner. So there were some like awkward like encounters like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it the other way, you know?
I think that's brilliant. I mean, because I think that puts you on the front end of the experience. Like, you're right there when people walk in the door. You're setting the tone for their experience, and they would never ever suspect that you are the owner. It's just not going to pop in somebody's head. So, you know, they might even say something to you that they wouldn't have said to you had they thought you were the owner. You know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of like learnings that you probably got out of that are just brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, and even to this day, I don't think people realize I'm the owner, but I'm like in and out all the time now too.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the part about like me getting to know people one-on-one, and then letting them connect with Avo in a way, and then I want to connect with them in a different way too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it.
So that's probably a great, you know, segue into what it is like being a restaurant owner in the era of COVID-19, you know, and we talked about how it's sort of like every 30 minutes the world is changing, right? But I just got done watching 20 minutes. I couldn't watch the whole thing because it was too depressing, but I watched 20 minutes of Mayor John Cooper's, address, sort of talking about what's going on right now. Obviously, we're seeing Miami sort of roll back significantly, shutting things down. It does feel like things are getting a little bit more intense here, and we have enough things in the red. When the first wave hit, and everything just had to like shut down, we were being very, very proactive to sort of shut things down. What did you do? how did you sort of process that moment, and then what did you actually do?
Right. It was really within a blink of an eye. The talk started coming early at the end of February and then early March, and then within the 2-week period, we just shut down. So when the talk started happening, I had to have a management meeting about like, we are expecting decreased sales. We need to staff lower. We need to cut our food cost. And this is our new goal for this month. And then a week later, it was, hey, we have to close our doors.
Wow.
So everything that I planned for, not sleeping for 48 hours and trying to, project our new sales and how we're going to make this work, it just all disappeared. And it was, to be honest, it was like one of the hardest parts of owning this business, because in the beginning it was, we had 32 people in my staff. And then within a blink of an eye, I had to let 32 people go.
Wow.
But people, the thing is, like, Avo, we're like a family, front of the house, back of the house. We try to have that kind of culture where we take care of one another. And I would say that all of us are pretty reasonable people. So when COVID hit, like, it wasn't like, oh, Annie, like, we blame you for this. They're like, they understood that this was just what reality was.
Yeah. And it wasn't just happening to you. I mean, this was happening to the entire hospitality industry.
Exactly.
Big companies, small companies, everybody was sort of facing this. Yeah. Yeah.
And I talked to my parents about the situation, what they were going to do. And I looked at how other businesses were going about it. And for me, the safety of my employees is first, and the customers. So decided to close the restaurant. And we closed for about a month and a half.
Wow.
Before coming back.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And
so what did you do during that closing time?
In the beginning, I would say I mourned a little bit, because we at that point, we really didn't know what COVID was going to do for 2020.
Right.
Were we going to be closed for the rest of the year? So I was just thinking about numbers, about like how much I need to have in order to just keep the restaurant closed and keep it alive until COVID ends, or maybe up until next year. Thinking of my employees' unemployment, when that starts, when that ends. I mean, thinking about it now, I'm just getting a little I'm getting emotional.
I understand. I understand. Yeah.
But we're still in it, which is the crazy part. And like you, when I see Mayor Cooper on TV, I watch like 20 minutes of it and I have to stop.
You have to stop. You have to stop. It's so
yeah.
Gosh, I don't even know what the right word is. It's not discouraging. It's like terrifying, actually. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much uncertainty. No one can speak from a place of authority. They don't have the ability to really, and I'm not trying to be like Pollyanna or anything, but they don't have the ability to like wave a wand and make this better for us. And we just can't like seem to get our footing. To where we can say, okay, this is our baseline and we're going to operate from here. And then this is stability, at least. It may be half of what we had before, but it's something we can sort of operate, and we just can't get there.
There's nothing concrete. It's just like you said, like every 30 minutes, there's something, and we have to pivot and move on from it and try to get through it. But yeah, it's my dad's restaurant. Actually, he did takeout all throughout COVID, and it's still takeout only. He doesn't plan on, opening the dining room.
Yeah.
Our dining room is actually not open either. We did takeout for a while, and then I realized it just wasn't enough to keep the business alive in a way. So we have this beautiful patio space with the volleyball court. And
it is a beautiful area over there in One City. Yeah.
And people, I feel like we feel safer when we're outside in open air.
I mean, we are safer. Like, we're scientifically safer when we're outside in open air than when we're indoors.
Exactly. So, it confined in like the same air,
circulating.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So we only do patio counter service now, where people order from a ordering window and then pick up. And I kind of got this idea from Mas Tacos, because, Mas Tacos, they have the ordering, they call your name. I was like, I think this is the best way that we can have the least amount of interaction with outside customers, and a way that I can keep my employees safe within the AVO building.
Yeah.
So little changes.
Wow. And like, do you feel like you have something that you're sort of anchored in that you can do for the rest of the year? Or do you feel like this is just what you're doing for today, and as you look a month out, you're just not really sure what to do? Maybe let me ask you this a little bit differently, actually. Because I think the thing that I am most concerned about is how can this sort of half capacity or outside model work over the long term economically for these businesses, right? Like, that's the thing I'm wondering. You've probably run the numbers so many times, your eyes are like rolling in the back of your head with this. Is there a path? Is there a path with this long slog that we're on for the restaurant industry to make it, if they can sort of just keep the costs very manageable?
I think so. I can't speak for restaurants who have done dining in already, because I haven't experienced it firsthand myself. But I know that a lot of restaurants are performing at 30%, 40%, even 25% sometimes of what they usually did.
Okay.
Which is mind-blowing.
That's mind-blowing. That's totally mind-blowing. Because you're just wondering, like, where are the variable costs that allow you to, like, shrink your top line revenue that much and still make it work?
And the margins in the restaurant world, it's really, really small.
I know.
After payroll, after food costs, after rent, fixed costs, like, it's just, there's really no margin unless you're like a big shot restaurant that's just booming like every single day. And I believe there are still restaurants like that. And there's restaurants like that who were kind of meant for business during COVID and who have actually done a lot better through COVID. But if restaurants, we have to look at our sales. We have to just adjust our, I've been adjusting my fixed expenses, kind of talking to my landlord about, rent, even all the vendors that we work with, like every day, like bringing in supplies. Like, for instance, we used to get, I used to spend like $800 to $1,000 on just linens per month. And I've cut that significantly.
Yeah.
I spend like maybe $150 now a month.
Right.
And those are the little changes that are going to affect the bottom line.
Yeah.
Even though it's so minimal, it's just.
Yeah, but it adds up. I mean, you multiply that by 12, that's a lot of money.
Exactly. So payroll and food costs is just, we have to adjust constantly.
Man, this is just so intense to kind of think about, like all the downstream ramifications of it. I love Avo. I am plant-based, and it is one of the few places in Nashville that really it does a fantastic job with a plant-based menu.
Thank
you. I really love it, and I'm behind you guys. You guys got to make it. You got to make it through. I think there's a whole community of people who are really supportive of it. What do you want to say to maybe the general public, but maybe also, entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs who are going through this, that, that you've sort of learned through the morning, through the pivoting, through the, recutting deals, what do you want to say that you think will help people to, just be strong and approach this with the right mindset?
I think it's always a better feeling when you know that you're not alone in this. And then that there are people who are willing to help if you just reach out. And that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I don't have that many restaurant friends, but during this COVID situation, I've reached out to several random people because I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the times. And it's sometimes hard to admit that as a business owner. When you're an entrepreneur, you're like, a lot of people think you have it figured out. But in reality, it's about reaching out to people and hearing their advice and kind of taking it into your personal account, and then making sure that the business side of it works out. So I would say that one thing my dad said to me when COVID kind of hit and I had to close my restaurant was that, my dad is a man of very few words. He doesn't really express his feelings very well. But he was like, Annie, you own a restaurant, you're a businesswoman, and you're a businesswoman for a reason. They call you a businesswoman because we go through so many ups and downs within the restaurant world, but you always find a way. And that's why you're a businesswoman. And that really kind of encouraged me in a way to kind of push through and be like, okay, I can do this. I would say just push on, because you're in this business for a reason, and if you're passionate about it, there's so many resources and people who would be willing to help out. So yeah, stay strong is what I would say.
That's awesome. And maybe just one final note. I know that, finding a way to bring meaning to your business through philanthropy has been important to you. How have you done that, generally speaking, and maybe also even during this time of COVID-19?
So when I quit my corporate job, I was like, I want to help people in a way, and I wanted to make sure that kind of stood by me even in the restaurant world. So last year we started Avo Give Back Day, which we pick a nonprofit for the month, and we give back a certain percentage of our sales to that nonprofit. And that came to me because after owning Avo, I didn't realize what a community felt like until I moved to Nashville. I feel like Nashville has such a strong sense of community. People they show up, they're there for one another. And that really influenced me to do the Avo Give Back Day. And so that has been kind of carrying over until March when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I had to put that on hold, because at this point, I want to give back, and that's still on my mind. But at the same time, for me,
you have
I'm
to be
trying
here
to survive.
You have to be here. Yes. That is, I'm glad you said that. That is such a huge, important message, right? It's we all want to give so much, and some people, as you said, some businesses are doing better than others, but it is totally okay to take a break from what normally would have been your posture in terms of, philanthropy and giving, to make sure you're okay right now. That's okay. You're worthy of that. We're all worthy of making sure that we're okay and we can sort of make it in this window of time. I think there's a lot of pressure, especially on business people, to be everything, do everything, show up for everybody. And, we're still at the end of the day, only human, and we have to try to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And that was really hard to stop, because we started this for a reason. And right before COVID hit, the tornado hit Nashville.
Yeah.
And we said, for one day, or the sales for one weekend in Avo is going to go towards the tornado relief, because my projected sales at the time was enough. Like, I knew that I would be able to give back to the community.
Right.
But as soon as COVID hit, I had to scramble, because I needed to get the funds out so that my people were taken care of. Like, my restaurant was going to be okay if I closed down. So I had to write an email to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee saying that, hey, the money that I said I would, give back to you guys, like, I have to just put it on hold. And they were super understanding of that. And I'm like forever thankful for them. And since business, we started picking up a little bit with patio, I'm giving back little by little, month to month right now, to kind of fulfill that. I'm keeping my word, and I want to give back as much as I can. It's really hard to see your community that's given so much to you, like for me, struggle. And I feel like Avo is going to be here for a while, and I want to invest in our community.
That's amazing. And that's amazing, inspiring, and definitely worth everyone just pondering and thinking about, how we are all existing in this moment, doing the best we can, but trying to keep our word for the commitments that we made. You're an inspiration, Annie. Thank you so much for doing the show. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be thinking about you, be thinking about your team, your family. I hope that we get some clarity and we get some stability so that you are able to do what you have done so well for years, which is to continue to provide nourishment and good vibes to the people of Nashville.
Oh, thank you so much, Marcus. This was fun.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad you had a good time. Y'all check out Annie. This is the first of many podcasts, y'all. I feel very, very blessed that I got to have her on the show. And she doesn't know it, but she's actually the 100th episode of Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe. Yep. Woo-hoo. How about it? So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, 100's a big number. So go follow Annie, eatavo.com, Annie Choo on LinkedIn, A Choo on Instagram. And yeah, this is the 1 week anniversary of Create and Orchestrate. It's been a fun week, fun ride. #1 Amazon bestseller in 6 categories, including entrepreneurship. So go get it today. Sorry, 99 cents special is over, but still go buy the book. You will not regret it. The podcast, just talked about it. We just hit 100 episodes. Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe. Subscribe everywhere that you get podcasts. And you can follow me online everywhere at Marcus Whitney, and subscribe to the newsletter at marcuswhitney.com. That is it. I'm out of here. I will see you guys here tomorrow with another episode of Marcus Whitney Live. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Marcus Whitney's Audio Universe.